desert lies in silence, a vast sea of sand that has swallowed empires and scattered their memory into dust. But rising above this endless horizon is something that refuses to be forgotten, the Great Pyramid of Giza. By day it burns beneath the Egyptian sun, a blinding monument of limestone that catches the sky. By night, it becomes something else entirely, a shadowed sentinel, a mountain of stone beneath the moonlight, older than most nations, older than most faiths. It stands in silence, but it speaks in riddles, and those riddles have haunted humanity for millennia. For the casual visitor, it is a tourist attraction. For the historian, it is a triumph of ancient engineering. But for the seeker, the dreamer, the believer, the skeptic, it is something far stranger. A riddle carved in stone, a monument whose true voice has been muffled but never silenced. The Great Pyramid has been called a tomb, a temple, a library, even a machine. And yet, no matter how many theories rise or fall, the pyramid itself never answers. Its silence is its greatest weapon. Its stillness, its greatest challenge. Imagine standing at its base. The limestone blocks tower over you, some weighing more than your entire family car. You run your hand along the surface, feeling grooves carved by workers who lived and died 4,500 years ago. Yet as much as you touch it, you cannot touch its meaning. Why was it built with such precision, such obsession, such monumental effort? For a single man's vanity? Or for something more, something hidden, protected, waiting? When the wind sweeps across the Giza Plateau, it carries a strange echo. It is the echo of time itself, whispering from the stone. The ancient Egyptians believed in eternity. They believed death was not an end but a passage. But perhaps their belief stretched even further. Perhaps they believed knowledge, too, could survive eternity if sealed within a vault strong enough to endure the ages. And if that was their goal, then the Great Pyramid was not simply a tomb. It was a code, a lockbox of wisdom. And to this day, no one has found the key. For centuries, travelers from Greece, Rome, and beyond stood in or before this giant. Some said it was built by giants themselves. Others claimed sorcery. To stand in its shadow was to feel the weight of something not entirely human. For while other monuments crumble, the Great Pyramid defies time itself. Empires rise and fall, the desert shifts, wars sweep across continents, yet the pyramid remains, unyielding, eternal, almost alive. And so the question begins to gnaw at us. Was this monument built to impress or to protect? Imagine the workers, thousands of them, heaving stone, singing chants, following orders. Did they know what they were part of? Did they believe they were building a tomb for their god-king? Or did whispers pass through the camps? Whispers of hidden rooms, secret texts, and treasures not of gold but of knowledge? The silence of the pyramid does not answer, but it tempts. It teases. It keeps us looking closer. Even in modern times, the Great Pyramid has resisted us. Archaeologists, explorers, and scientists have crawled through its passages, drilled into its walls, scanned it with cosmic rays. And still, its greatest secret remains locked away. Every discovery only seems to open another door, and behind that door lies not truth, but more mystery. If the pyramid were a book, its pages are written in a language we can barely begin to understand. Geometry, astronomy, acoustics, myth, all these threads converge, yet none of them complete the tapestry. The silence becomes almost deliberate, as if the pyramid is choosing not to reveal its purpose, as if it is waiting. And that thought is perhaps the most haunting of all. The monument could be designed not just to survive time, but to outwait us, to sit in patient silence until humanity was ready to hear its true message. And maybe we are not ready yet. But what if we are? What if the codes hidden in its structure, its alignments, its proportions, are not simply mathematical curiosities but deliberate messages? What if the builders encoded something so dangerous, so transformative, that it had to be hidden in plain sight? A warning about cataclysms, a record of forgotten sciences, a roadmap to eternity itself. The silence of the pyramid then becomes not absence, but protection, a silence meant to guard what words could never truly express. We are drawn in not just by stone, but by shadow. Every night, when the moon casts its pale light across its angles, the pyramid seems alive with presence. It feels less like a ruin and more like a sentinel, watching, waiting, protecting. And that question returns, sharper each time. What was so important, so sacred, that it had to be locked away in the heart of the world's greatest monument? The answer does not come easily. It never has. But the pursuit of it has shaped entire centuries of exploration, obsession, and speculation. From pharaohs and priests to conquerors and scholars, from mystics to modern scientists, every generation has sought to unlock the pyramid's silence. And yet the riddle remains. The pyramid calls to us across time. Its voice is not in words, but in silence. Its code is not on papyrus, but in stone. To stand before it is to stand before a mystery that has outlived every civilization that has ever tried to claim it. And tonight, under the desert stars, that mystery feels sharper than ever. The Great Pyramid does not answer, but it asks. It asks with every stone, every angle, every shadow. What were they protecting? And are we ready to know? The desert remembers more than it reveals. Beneath the waves of sand, countless stories have been buried, their echoes faint but persistent. Long before the age of satellites and lasers, before archaeology called itself a science, strangers stood before the Great Pyramid and wondered at its silence. They saw not just a monument, but a puzzle, and the whispers began. Herodotus, the Greek traveler of the 5th century BCE, walked the Nile and listened to the priests of Egypt. They told him tales that seemed impossible, tunnels beneath the pyramid, secret chambers sealed with stone, even hidden rivers flowing under the sands. He wrote of machines and ramps, of mysteries he himself could not confirm. But even in his words, one truth was clear. The Egyptians guarded secrets they would not fully share. What they revealed to outsiders was a shadow, a glimpse, never the full picture. Other Greek thinkers added their own voices. Diodorus Siculus, writing centuries later, insisted the pyramid was not merely a tomb, but a monument to knowledge, a library of stone meant to outlast fire, war, and decay. To him, its silence was deliberate. No inscriptions covered its surface because the builders wanted the monument itself to be the writing. Stone as script, geometry as language. A cipher hiding in plain sight. The whispers did not end with the Greeks. Arab chroniclers, writing in the Middle Ages, passed down even stranger tales. Al-Makrizi, one of the most respected Egyptian historians of the 15th century, claimed the pyramids were built long before the flood, yes, the biblical flood, by a king named Shirid, who foresaw a coming cataclysm. Fearing the loss of all human knowledge, Shirid commanded his people to carve into stone the sciences of medicine, astronomy, alchemy, and geometry. These sciences, he said, was sealed within the chambers of the Great Pyramid, awaiting the day humanity would once again be worthy of them. Think about that. To Al-Makrizi and his readers, the pyramid was not only a tomb but a time capsule, a vault of knowledge meant to bridge world before and after destruction. The whispers of the sand told of warnings, of secrets meant to save rather than to glorify. Was this merely legend, or did the priests who guarded the pyramid pass down a fragment of something real? And yet, the more we look, the stranger the whispers become. Arab explorers claimed there were inscriptions on the walls within the pyramid, inscriptions that have since vanished, or perhaps never existed at all. Some spoke of stars and prophesied, of numbers that revealed the age of the world. Others described mechanical devices hidden deep within, relics from a forgotten age. We can dismiss these as fantasy, but they linger because of one inescapable truth. The Great Pyramid is unlike anything else built in Egypt. Its silence feels intentional, its emptiness deliberate. If it was simply a tomb, why so few inscriptions? Why such impossible precision? Why such secrecy? Even the early European travelers, centuries later, came away unsettled. To them, the pyramid was not simply impressive, it was unnerving. They saw it as a vault without a key, an object that seemed less built than summoned. Many wondered how a people of the Bronze Age could create such perfection. Some whisper that the Egyptians had help from gods or from something beyond human comprehension. In each retelling, the whispers grow, like a story carried on the wind. The sands never shout, they murmur, they hint, they conceal. And perhaps that is what makes them so powerful. Because every legend, every account, pushes us toward the same uneasy question. What if the pyramid was always meant to provoke wonder? What if it was designed to whisper across the centuries, to draw us toward its secret without ever handing it freely? The whispers also carried fear. Ancient priests warned that those who trespass upon sacred ground would invite disaster. Some said the chambers were sealed with curses, not words but forces, spiritual or otherwise, that punished intruders. And indeed, history is filled with tales of explorers and thieves who sought treasure within only to meet strange fates. Coincidence, perhaps, but enough to deepen the sense of dread. The pyramid does not shout its message, but it defends it in silence. But maybe the most intriguing whisper of all is this, that the pyramid's builders were not just guarding secrets of themselves, but protecting them from us, the future. Perhaps they believed that knowledge could be more dangerous than ignorance, that some truths could destroy as easily as they could enlighten. If so, then the silence of the pyramid is not simply absence. It is choice. It is protection. And so, across centuries, from Greeks to Arabs to Europeans, the pyramid has stood as both monument and mystery. The sands shift around it, but its shadow remains the same. And in that shadow, the whispers continue. Some speak of forgotten sciences, others of prophecy and flood, still others of curses and divine protection. The stories contradict one another, but they all circle the same question: what was hidden, and why? To stand before the Great Pyramid is to step into a long chain of seekers. Every visitor adds their own voice to the chorus of whispers, each convinced they are closer to the truth. Yet the stone remains unmoved, unbroken, impenetrable. It keeps its silence, offering only fragments, only hints. And perhaps that is the design. Because in the end, the pyramid does not reveal itself in words. It reveals itself in the hunger it creates within us, the desire to know, to solve, to uncover. That hunger has driven thousands of years of stories, thousands of years of whispers in the sand. And still, the riddle remains. The pyramid watches, silent and unchanging. The desert carries the whispers onward. And we, like those before us, are left to wonder, what truth lies buried in the silence? And if we find it, will it be what we hoped, or something far more unsettling? In the golden age of the Old Kingdom, power in Egypt was not just political, it was cosmic. Pharaohs were not rulers in the ordinary sense. They were seen as living gods, the bridge between heaven and earth. Their commands were not laws but divine decrees. And among them, one name looms as large as a monument itself: Khufu, the man credited with commissioning the Great Pyramid. To later Egyptians, Khufu was both feared and revered. Ancient tales speak of a ruler who demanded obedience, a man who will reshape the desert. In the Westcar Papyrus, one of the oldest collections of Egyptian stories, Khufu appears not as a humble servant of the gods, but as a seeker of secret knowledge. He summons magicians, listens to prophesies, demands visions of what is to come. The picture that emerges is not just of a king building a tomb, but of a man obsessed with eternity, with ensuring his power outlasted even death itself. But was the pyramid merely an expression of ego? Some Egyptologists say yes. They argue Khufu, like many rulers, sought to immortalize his name in stone, building higher, stronger, greater than any who came before. Yet even that explanation feels insufficient. Vanity alone cannot explain the precision, the scale, the perfection. Something more was at play, something that demanded a promise beyond the grave. Khufu's pyramid was unlike those before it. His father, Sneferu, had experimented with designs: the bent pyramid, the red pyramid, each a step closer to perfection. It was as if Sneferu and his architect were rehearsing, testing, preparing for something greater. When Khufu took the throne, the time for rehearsal was over. His monument will be the culmination of everything learned, a structure not just for a king, but for eternity itself. And eternity was no small ambition. To the Egyptians, death was not an end but a transformation. The soul would journey through the underworld, face judgment, and, if found worthy, join the gods in the eternal fields of paradise. But the journey was perilous. To pass through safely, the pharaoh required protection, spells, rituals, offerings, and perhaps something more tangible, a vessel strong enough to guard his spirit forever. That vessel was a pyramid. But what if it guarded more than a soul? Some scholars suggest Khufu's true promise was not to himself, but to his people. The pyramid, they argue, was a covenant, a pact that Egypt's greatness would endure as long as the stone endured. In this light, the pyramid was not just about Khufu's survival in the afterlife, but about Egypt's survival in history. And if so, then Khufu's promise was fulfilled. The Great Pyramid has carried the name of Egypt across 45 centuries, surviving even when dynasties, languages, and gods faded away. Yet there is another, darker whisper that Khufu's promise was more secretive. The stories preserved by Arab chroniclers centuries later describe him as a man who foresaw catastrophe. Like the mythical king Shurid, Khufu may have believed in a coming flood or cataclysm, a destruction that would erase human achievements. If so, then his pyramid was less a tomb and more an ark, a fortress of stone to protect the most precious thing humanity possessed, knowledge. If this was the case, then the pyramid's silence makes sense. It needed no hieroglyphs, no visible inscriptions. Its very structure, its dimensions, its alignments, its geometry, could serve as a code. Anyone who survived a disaster and rebuilt civilization could rediscover these truths simply by studying the monument itself. Khufu's promise, then, was not to be remembered as a man, but to ensure that humanity remembered itself. But was Khufu aware of what his builders achieved? Did he understand the numbers, the alignments, the strange codes embedded in stone? Or was he simply the face of a project led by priests and architects who knew far more? We cannot know for certain. What we do know is that Khufu has remained a shadowy figure. Unlike Ramses or Tutankhamun, his image does not dominate temples. Few statues of him survive. His reputation was not gilded by later generations. Some Egyptians even remembered him as cruel, a tyrant who forces people into endless labor. Perhaps this is part of the mystery. The man who built the greatest monument of the ancient world left behind almost nothing else. His legacy is not written in stories or statues, but in stone. It is as if Khufu himself became absorbed into the pyramid, vanishing into its silence, leaving us only the riddle. And so, his promise lingers. Was it vanity, the desperate attempt of a mortal man to become a god? Was it a covenant with his people, ensuring Egypt's greatness would never fade? Or was it something more profound, the attempt to preserve wisdom itself against the tides of destruction? The answer is buried within the pyramid stones. And as we move deeper into its mystery, the question sharpens. If Khufu's promise was to protect something, then what exactly did he hide? The Great Pyramid is not a monument of stories. It is a monument of stone. Stone so vast, so heavy, so precise, that even today it feels less like human construction and more like an impossible feat stand at its base, and you are dwarfed by its presence. The blocks are not neat bricks. They are boulders, quarried, transported, lifted, and placed with precision that still defies belief. Consider the scale. Over 3 million blocks, weighing on average 2.5 tons each, with some massive stones in the inner chambers reaching up to 70 tons. 70 tons, a single block heavier than 10 elephants, carved and moved before the invention of iron tools, before the wheel was widely used in construction. The scale alone is staggering, but it is a precision that transforms awe into suspicion. The 4 sides of the pyramid align almost perfectly to the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, with an error so slight it is almost beyond comprehension. Modern surveyors, equipped with GPS and lasers, struggle to match this accuracy. The base is nearly a perfect square, with corners meeting at right angles so exact they could rival a modern engineer's blueprint. The slope of the sides follows a ratio that seems to encode both pi and the golden ratio, mathematical constants not officially recognized until thousands of years later. How did they do it? Traditional explanations point to ramps, colossal ramps stretching into the desert, upon which thousands of workers drag the stones. But the math does not always add up. To move 70-ton blocks along an earthen ramp would require resources, manpower, and space so vast it strains the imagination. The ramp itself would have been larger than the pyramid, a construction almost as great as the monument it was meant to serve. Could such a feat have been possible? And if it was, why leave no clear trace of it? Then there's the matter of the joints. Many of the stones are fitted so tightly together that not even a razor blade can slide between them. Without mortar, without iron clamps, they interlock like puzzle pieces, distributing weight across the structure in a way that allows a pyramid to stand unbroken for over 4 millennia. In earthquakes, in shifting sands, it endures. Was this simply the mastery of ancient stonemasons, or did they understand the science of pressure, weight, and balance that we are only beginning to rediscover? And deeper still, the mysteries multiply. The granite blocks in the king's chamber were hauled from quarries hundreds of miles away in Aswan. Imagine the logistics. transporting these massive stones along the Nile, hauling them across the desert, and then lifting them into position dozens of feet above ground. Without cranes, without machines, without modern steel cables. Even the simplest description of the task feels implausible, yet the evidence stands before us undeniable. What if the impossibility is the point? What if the builders intended the very act of construction to be a code, a message embedded in effort itself? To build a monument so impossibly precise, so impossibly vast, that it forced future generations to ask, why? Why go to such extremes, unless what they were protecting required nothing less than perfection? The weight of stone becomes symbolic. Each block is more than material. It is intention. It is as though the pyramid was designed to be indestructible, a fortress of knowledge. Unlike papyrus, which burns, or wood, which rots, stone endures. And unlike small monuments, which crumble, this mountain of blocks absorbs time itself. If the builders wanted to guard something for eternity, they chose a perfect medium, impossible stone. But here's where the mystery deepens further. The pyramid is not simply a pile of rocks. It is engineered like a machine. The pressure of millions of tons is distributed with exacting care. The grand gallery, with its corbelled walls, channels weight upward and away from the delicate king's chamber. Above that chamber are more hidden relieving chambers, stacked layers of stone designed to deflect unimaginable pressure. This was not trial and error. This was deliberate, meticulous engineering. It is as if the builders understood forces we still struggle to calculate. Some suggest this level of precision was unnecessary if the pyramid were only a tomb. After all, most tombs did not require 70-ton granite ceilings or relieving chambers of such sophistication. Was the pyramid designed for something greater than housing a corpse? Was the engineering not about vanity, but about protection? If so, then perhaps the impossibility of the stone is itself a lock that has kept secret seal for thousands of years. Others have gone further, suggesting that the stone itself carries meaning. The choice of granite, with its piezoelectric properties, has led to speculation that the pyramid was not only a monument but a resonator, a device that interacted with energy or sound. While mainstream archaeology rejects these theories as pseudoscience, they refuse to die because they stem from a simple, unshakable feeling. This monument feels too precise, too purposeful, to be explained away as mere burial architecture. And so, the questions pile as high as the stones themselves. Did Khufu's builders possess a lost technology, knowledge now forgotten? Were they mathematicians and engineers centuries ahead of their time? Or were they simply determined beyond measure, their willpower the true miracle? Each theory offers a piece of the puzzle, yet none complete it. What we are left with is a haunting reality of the impossible stone itself. Blocks so heavy, so precisely cut, so deliberately placed that they outlasted empires, languages, and gods. A structure that mocks time, as if daring the centuries to try and erase it. When you stand before it, you feel not just but a kind of unease. Because the pyramid whispers with its very existence. If they could do this then, what else did they know? And what exactly were they building to protect? The Great Pyramid is not only a mountain of stone above the desert, it is a labyrinth within. Its surface reveals little. Smooth sides, broken only by the scars of time, but inside lies a web of corridors, chambers, and shafts that have puzzled explorers for centuries. What we know of these passages is already strange enough. What we do not know may be stranger still. The official entrance, cut high on the northern face, opens into a descending passageway. This narrow corridor plunges deep into the bedrock beneath the pyramid, leading to what is called the subterranean chamber. It is a rough-hewn room, unfinished, raw, as if abandoned mid-construction. For some, it is a false chamber meant to mislead tomb robbers. For others, it is a beginning of something more mysterious, an unfinished key to a deeper level still hidden under the sands. From the descending passage branches the ascending one, which leads upward into the grand gallery, the queen's chamber, and finally the king's chamber. Each chamber carries its own enigma. The queen's chamber, for example, contains two narrow shafts that extend outward but stop short of the pyramid surface. They are too small for a person to crawl through, too carefully aligned to be meaningless. To some, they were air shafts. To others, star channels, aligned to Sirius and Orion, pathways to the soul of the pharaoh, or perhaps something else entirely. The king's chamber, too, is threaded with shafts precisely angled toward constellations. Yet even here, there are mysteries. Small, mysterious copper fittings found at the ends of the queen's chamber shaft suggest something more than ventilation. Were they symbolic? Functional? Some theorists imagine a sealed mechanism, others an encoded map of the heavens. Egyptologists insist they served ritual purposes. But ritual in Egypt was never separate from science. It was science spoken in myth. What is most unsettling is not what has been found, but what remains unseen. Modern explorers have drilled tiny holes, snaked cameras through shafts, and scanned with ground-penetrating radar. Each attempt reveals something tantalizing: empty voids above the Grand Gallery, passages that seem to lead nowhere, stone blocks deliberately placed to conceal what lies beyond. In 1993, a robotic probe sent into one of the Queen's chamber shafts discovered a small limestone door with 2 copper pins. A second probe in 2002 drilled a hole through it and found yet another door beyond. Beyond that, silence. What lies further remains unknown, sealed for 4,500 years. Imagine the intent of the builders. These were not random tunnels carved without plan. They were deliberate, precise, and in some cases intentionally blocked. Why build a shaft only to seal it with a stone door? Why align it to the stars only to make it impossible? Unless the point was never to walk these corridors, but to encode a secret in their very existence. The hidden passages themselves become part of the cipher. And yet, human curiosity has never been patient. In the 9th century, the Caliph Al-Ma'mun ordered his men to break into the pyramid. They used fire, vinegar, and brute force, smashing through solid stone until they stumbled into the hidden passages. But what they found was not gold or jewels, only empty corridors and silent chambers. Legend says they recovered melted fragments of treasure. Others say they found nothing at all. Either way, disappointment followed. But perhaps what they sought could never have been carried out in arms. Perhaps the treasure was not loot, but knowledge. In the 19th century, European explorers returned, hammer and chisel in hand, determined to uncover what the sands concealed. They crawled through narrow shafts, dynamited walls, and left behind scars still visible today. Their reports speak of strange echoes, of labyrinthine turns, of a sense that more always lay just out of reach. The pyramids seemed alive with secrets, mocking their efforts, offering hints but never surrender. Even in our own century, technology has deepened rather than solved the mystery. In 2017, a team of scientists used cosmic ray muon detectors to scan the pyramid's mass. To their astonishment, they discovered a vast, previously unknown void above the Grand Gallery. It is as large as a cathedral, untouched since the day the pyramid was built. What it holds is unknown. It may be empty space, a structural feature, or it may be the very vault that ancient whispers spoke of, a chamber deliberately hidden, waiting for discovery. The thought lingers. If such a space can remain hidden for thousands of years, how much more lies concealed within? The pyramid is too large, too complex, for us to claim we know it fully. Each discovery only widens the question. The hidden passages are not merely corridors of stone. They are corridors of mystery, leading us deep into the mind of a civilization that built with intention far beyond our understanding. And there is another possibility, darker and more unsettling. What if the passages are traps, misdirections, designed to frustrate intruders? What if the true vault lies beyond walls we have not yet dared to break, in places where the pyramid still guards its silence? The builders may have intended exactly this, to confuse, to delay, to protect. The pyramid is a labyrinth not only of stone, but of thought. Each passage is a thread, leading us deeper, but never to the center. We follow, generation after generation, only to find more doors, more shadows, more silence. And perhaps that is a design. Because in the end, the pyramid does not reveal itself easily. Its hidden passages whisper that knowledge must be owned, not stolen, that secrets can be protected not by locks, but by silence, by misdirection, by the endless hunger of those who seek them. We walk these corridors still, chasing echoes, and with each step, one truth grows louder. The pyramid was built not just a house of dead, but to guard something living, a secret that still breathes in its silent holes. Long before satellites, laser scans, and muon detectors, the mystery of the Great Pyramid was already gnawing at human imagination. When the desert winds whispered through the ruins of Giza, priests, travelers, and scholars alike asked the same haunting question. What did the ancients leave behind in this colossal tomb of stone? The answers were not simple. To the earliest seekers, the pyramid was more than an Egyptian monument. It was a riddle in the language of gods. The Greeks were among the first outsiders to peer into its shadow. Herodotus, writing in the 5th century BCE, described the pyramid as a vault for a king's body and treasure. But even he doubted the official story, hinting at hidden channels beneath the Nile that may have led into the pyramid itself. Later Greek writers believed the pyramid to be more than a tomb. Some thought it was an astronomical observatory, a marker of the stars set in stone. Already, the pyramid was not simply architecture, it was code. By the medieval period, centuries after Egypt's dynasties had crumbled, whispers of the pyramid's secrets drew seekers from across the known world. In the Islamic Golden Age, scholars from Baghdad, Damascus, and Cairo speculated that the pyramids were not tombs at all but libraries of stone, repositories of wisdom from a forgotten civilization. Al-Masudi, a 10th century historian, claimed the builders encoded within the pyramid knowledge of the stars, the arts, and all things past and future. He imagined the chambers crammed with tablets, talismans, even weapons designed to survive a world-ending catastrophe. But there were others who sought the pyramid's knowledge not for history, but for power. Medieval mystics, Hermetic philosophers, alchemists, Kabbalists believed the pyramid to be a cipher of divine truth. They scoured its proportions, its alignments, its angles, convinced that within its geometry lay universal laws. If one could read the pyramid correctly, they might uncover the key to immortality, the transmutation of metals, or even the secret name of God. One of the most curious stories comes from the Middle Ages, when explorers claimed to have uncovered inscriptions within the pyramid, strange glyphs no one could read. Some said they were ancient Egyptian, others insisted they were older still, written in a forgotten tongue of a civilization before the flood. Whether real or imagined, the belief took root. The pyramid was a message across time, a vault of codes waiting for its first true readers. Then came the Crusades. Soldiers and monks returning from the Holy Land carried with them more than relics. They carried stories of the pyramids. Among these men were the Knights Templar, who became forever associated with lost knowledge and hidden treasures. Some accounts suggest they too sought the secrets of Giza, linking their sudden rise in wealth and power to something unearthed in the East. The legend of hidden codes within the pyramid quietly merged with the legends of the Templars, creating a myth of secret orders guarding forbidden wisdom. By the Renaissance, Europe had fallen in love with Egypt. Scholars pored over ancient texts, while artists and architects copied Egyptian motifs. The pyramid became the ultimate symbol of hidden knowledge, appearing in mystical diagrams and esoteric treatises. Hermetic scholars claimed the pyramid's measurements predicted cosmic cycles, the birth and death of empires, even the Second Coming. To them, the pyramid was not stone but scripture, written in a language of mathematics and proportion. Yet for all their ambition, these first code breakers were grasping in the dark. They lacked the Rosetta Stone, which would not be discovered until 1799. They could not read the hieroglyphs, could not decode the ancient Egyptian tongue. What they had instead was imagination, and imagination is often the most powerful code of all. Their interpretations, though unproven, shaped centuries of thought. Each generation layered new myths upon the old, until the pyramid stood as a mirror of human longing itself, a monument into which we pour our own fears and hopes. But even imagination has consequences. For some, the pyramid's code became warnings. Medieval legends claimed that the builders had hidden their knowledge because it was dangerous, that in the wrong hands it could topple kingdoms or unleash devastation. Others believed the code predicted future disasters, encrypted warnings of floods, fires, and plagues. What if the pyramid was not built to celebrate a pharaoh's life, but to guard humanity against its own forgetting? And so, in candlelit monasteries, in dusty libraries of Cairo and Constantinople, men bent over parchment and scrolls, drawing the pyramid again and again, searching for meaning in its slopes and shadows. They became the first code breakers, not because they solved a riddle, but because they understood that a riddle was there at all. Their failure was not final. It was preparation. 4 centuries later, when Napoleon marched into Egypt, when the Rosetta Stone cracked the code of hieroglyphs, when modern science began to probe the pyramid's interior, it was these early dreamers who had prepared the way. They had kept alive the conviction that within the stones of Giza a message still slept. The Great Pyramid is silent stone, yes, but it is also a voice. And those first code breakers, fumbling, half-blind, perhaps heard its whisper first. They did not solve it, but they awakened the chase. Every stone of the Great Pyramid was cut, hauled, and set in place with astonishing precision. Yet the true enigma is not only the engineering feat, but the knowledge it required. To build such a monument, 4,500 years ago, demanded more than brute labor. It demanded vision, mathematics, astronomy, and a mastery of stonework that still baffles us today. And so arises a question that has haunted scholars for centuries. What knowledge did the builders possess, and how much of it have we lost? The pyramid stands at the very center of Egypt's ancient kingdom, not merely geographically but symbolically. Its sides are lined almost perfectly with the cardinal points of the compass, north, south, east, and west. Modern instruments measure its alignment within a fraction of a degree, a feat almost impossible without advanced surveying equipment. How did the builders achieve this with copper tools and ropes? Did they track the stars, watching the eternal dance of the heavens to map their earthly creation? If so, then they had mastered a form of astronomy far more precise than we give them credit for. The mathematics of the pyramid is equally uncanny. Its base and height encode ratios that mirror fundamental constants. Divide the perimeter of its base by twice its height, and the result approximates pi, the number that governs circles. Compare the slant of its sides to its height, and the golden ratio emerges, a proportion found in art, nature, and architecture across the ages. Are these coincidences, or deliberate codes left in stone? Egyptologists argue they may be the product of practical geometry, yet the consistency is difficult to dismiss. Was this mathematics inherited knowledge, preserved from an earlier age? Legends swirl around the idea that the builders were not inventors of this wisdom, but guardians. Some ancient texts suggest that before the time of Khufu, before even the dawn of Egypt's first dynasty, a civilization existed that understood the stars and the earth in ways we have forgotten. To many in antiquity, the pyramid was not the beginning of Egypt's story but a remnant of an earlier, lost chapter. The Egyptians themselves spoke of Zep-Tepi, the first time, a mythical golden age when gods walked among men and taught them the secrets of the cosmos. Could the pyramid be a monument from that age, designed to safeguard its wisdom through the ages of darkness? In the Islamic Golden Age, scholars speculated that the pyramid was built to preserve knowledge before the Great Flood. According to these accounts, the ancient sages foresaw a deluge that would wipe away all civilization, so they carved their science, their medicine, their philosophy into the geometry of the pyramid itself. Not in words that could be burned or drowned, but in proportions and alignments that could endure as long as the stones remained standing. If true, then the pyramid is not simply a tomb, but a library written in the language of number and form. Even modern engineers, with cranes and computer models, marvel at what was achieved. Over 2 million stone blocks, some weighing as much as 80 tons, were fitted together so tightly that a knife blade cannot slip between them. The king's chamber, made of granite whole from hundreds of miles away, is constructed with beams that weigh more than the heaviest stones at Stonehenge. The logistics are staggering, but the intention behind such precision is even more mysterious. Why go to such lengths if the goal was merely to bury a king? Perhaps the builders were encoding something greater. Theories abound that the pyramid's dimensions encode the size of the Earth itself. The perimeter corresponds to the Earth's equator, its height to the distance from Earth to the poles. The slant of its walls mirrors a tilt of Earth's axis. If these correlations are deliberate, they suggest a knowledge of the globe thousands of years before it was officially measured. Did the builders know the shape and scale of the planet? Or were they passing down a tradition older than Egypt itself? Yet with every theory comes skepticism. Archaeologists remind us that the pyramid was a cultural product of its time, not an alien artifact or Atlantean relic. They insist the ancient Egyptians achieved their feats with careful observation, generations of accumulated skill, and profound commitment to their king and gods. But even in this explanation, there is awe, because what we have lost is not only the practical know-how, but the worldview itself, a way of seeing earth, sky, and spirit as one seamless fabric. The builders' knowledge was not fragmented into science, religion, and art. For them, geometry was sacred, astronomy divine, architecture a bridge between worlds. To build the pyramid was to mirror the cosmos, to stabilize chaos, to fix eternity in stone. That unity of purpose, that fusion of science and spirit, may be the greatest knowledge we have lost. And perhaps that is the real code. The pyramid teaches not just numbers and alignments, but a philosophy, a reminder that knowledge is not merely utility but meaning, not only measurement but mystery. What happened to this knowledge after the pyramid was built? Did it vanish into the desert sands, carried away by conquest, time, and forgetting? Or was it deliberately concealed, locked away in the very structure of the pyramid, waiting for those who could one day read its silent script? Every angle, every block, every hidden chamber whispers of something more, a legacy the builders intended to protect. And so the pyramid remains, towering above the desert, a sentinel of memory. It tells us not what we want to know, but what we have forgotten. And as we peer at its stone geometry, a question rises like the desert sun. Were the builders constructing a tomb for a king or a monument to knowledge itself? When the Great Pyramid was first measured against the heavens, scholars noticed something uncanny. Its sides were not only aligned to the cardinal points of Earth, north, south, east, and west, but its shafts and chambers seemed to reach upward, pointing to the very heart of the night sky. This was not an accident of stone. It was intention written in starlight. The shafts from the king's chamber, narrow and precise, are angled toward specific stars. One points toward Orion's belt, the constellation long associated with Osiris, the Egyptian god of rebirth and the afterlife. The other points toward the star Thuban, once the pole star, representing the eternal north. Meanwhile, the shafts of the queen's chamber align to Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, linked to the goddess Isis. In this silent architecture, a celestial map takes shape: Osiris and Isis, death and rebirth, eternity and guidance. It is as though the pyramid itself is not a tomb, but a cosmic machine designed to unite the pharaoh with the gods of the heavens. The Egyptians believed that upon death, the pharaoh would ascend to the stars, joining the imperishable ones, those constellations that never set below the horizon. The pyramid, then, was a launch platform for the soul, a ladder of stone angled perfectly to the eternal sky. In this vision, every block of limestone becomes more than construction. It becomes theology, mathematics, and astronomy fused into one. But there are deeper mysteries hidden in these alignments. Orion's belt, as seen from Giza, aligns not only with the shafts of the pyramid, but with the three great pyramids themselves. Many believe the three pyramids at Giza mirror the three stars of Orion's belt, a reflection of heaven on earth. The Nile, flowing nearby, would then correspond to the Milky Way, the celestial river. If true, the entire Giza plateau was not merely built, it was written, a text carved into landscape and sky. Some modern researchers point to the precession of the equinoxes, the slow wobble of Earth's axis that changes the stars' positions over thousands of years. According to their calculations, the pyramid's alignment with Orion's belt would have been most exact not in Khufu's time, but around 10,500 BCE, millennia earlier than Egypt's first kings. Could it be that the pyramid encodes not the sky of its builders, but the sky of a forgotten age? If so, then the structure becomes a time capsule, preserving the memory of a celestial moment long lost to history. The star Sirius deepens the riddle. Each year, the rising of Sirius just before dawn marked the flooding of the Nile, the lifeblood of Egypt. To the ancients, this was no mere astronomical event. It was a promise of life, renewal, and sustenance. Aligning the queen's chamber shaft to Sirius would ensure that the soul of the pharaoh was forever tied to the rhythms of life itself. Life, death, rebirth, all written into stone geometry and stellar light. Yet skeptics argue that the alignments may be overstated, that the shaft could serve practical purposes, such as ventilation, and that astronomical correspondences may be coincidental. But coincidences accumulate, and the pyramid offers too many to dismiss. The precision of its orientation, off true north by Mayock minutes, defies simple explanation. The builders were not fumbling with ropes and shadows. They were surveying with a mastery of sky and earth that remains difficult to equal. If the pyramid is a code, then its astronomical alignments may be its most crucial passage. Consider this. The stars the pyramid points to are not random. They represent gods, myths, cycles of time. Orion is Osiris, the resurrected king. Sirius is Isis, the eternal mother. The North Star is eternity, unsetting, unchanging. These alignments may have been designed to ensure that the pharaoh did not simply die, but was absorbed into the eternal order of the cosmos. The pyramid becomes not a grave, but a resurrection chamber. But there's another possibility, one more radical. What if the alignments were not for the dead, but for the living? Ancient temples across the world aligned to solstices, equinoxes, and celestial events, not only to honor the heavens, but to mark time, to forecast seasons, to predict floods and droughts. Could the pyramid, too, have been a clock, a calendar, a device that used the stars to measure the turning of ages? If so, then it was not merely a monument, but an instrument, a machine of time itself. The deeper one looks, the stranger it becomes. Some scholars propose that the shafts, pointing to Orion and Sirius, may have been conduits not just for symbolism but for energy. In myth, the stars were not distant suns but living forces, channels of divine power. To align the pyramid with them may have been to draw that power down into Earth. The pyramid would then be not just a tomb, not just a calendar, but a bridge between worlds. And here lies a chilling thought. If the pyramid encodes the heavens of a time 10,000 years earlier, then its builders either remembered an epoch far older than history admits, or inherited knowledge from those who did. Perhaps the pyramid was built not to celebrate a king, but to preserve the memory of a sky, a time, a truth that would otherwise be lost. Night after night, as the desert cools and the stars blaze above, the pyramid still holds its vigil. Its stones drink starlight, its shafts point upward like fingers frozen in prayer. It does not move, but it speaks, not in words, but in alignments, not in sentences, but in constellations. And the more we uncover, the more the pyramid seems to tell us, this monument was never about death. It was always about eternity. The builders knew the stars would outlast empires, that stone would outlast kings. So they built not for themselves, but for time itself. The pyramid is both a map and a mirror. It shows us the heavens as the ancients saw them, and it shows us ourselves, still searching, still wondering, still reaching upward, trying to decode the message written in the sky. If the Great Pyramid speaks in alignments and starlight, it also whispers in numbers. Hidden within its stones is a language not written in hieroglyphs, but in measurements, ratios, and proportions. To some, these numbers are coincidence. To others, they are a deliberate code, one that the builders believe would outlast any script or spoken tongue. Numbers do not decay like papyrus, nor erode like carvings. They endure, etched into geometry itself. Start with the simplest figures. The base of the pyramid measures about 756 feet per side, with a height originally around 481 feet. Multiply, divide, and compare these numbers, and strange correspondences emerge. The ratio of the perimeter to the height approximates 2 pi, the relationship between a circle's circumference and diameter. Was this intentional? Did the builders understand pi thousands of years before it was formally calculated? Or did they stumble upon it while perfecting their design? Either way, the number rests silently in stone, unchanging, undeniable. Then there's the golden ratio, phi, long celebrated in art and nature. The slope of the pyramid sides corresponds almost exactly to this proportion. From seashells to galaxies, from human anatomy to Renaissance paintings, the golden ratio appears wherever beauty and harmony reside. In the Great Pyramid, this number rises with every angle, as if the builders wished to inscribe the mathematics of life itself into their monument to eternity. But the riddle deepens. The pyramid's dimensions also seem to reflect the Earth itself. Its base perimeter, multiplied by a specific factor, yields a near-exact measure of Earth's circumference at the equator. Its height corresponds to the distance from Earth's center to the poles. Could this be coincidence? Or did the pyramid's builders know the shape and size of the planet long, before the age of satellites? If intentional, this is not merely architecture, it is cartography, cosmology, and science far ahead of its time. Some theorists suggest the pyramid is not only a monument but a book of stone, a record of all knowledge the builders wish to preserve. Each dimension, each angle, encodes information about mathematics, astronomy, and the Earth itself. For example, the length of the base divided by the height yields 43,200, a number that corresponds to Earth's precessional cycle, the slow wobble of its axis over 26,000 years. Was this a coincidence, or a deliberate attempt to encode cosmic time in stone? Egyptologists, cautious and precise, argue that many of these correlations can be explained by practical choices. Builders use a royal cubit, as a unit of measure, and the geometry of the pyramid arises naturally from their methods. Yet the coincidences stack, one upon another, until even skeptics pause. How could so many constants, so many cosmic truths, all appear within the same structure? To the ancient Egyptians, numbers were not abstract. They were alive, divine. Geometry was not cold mathematics, but sacred language, a reflection of Ma'at, the cosmic order. To inscribe numbers into stone was to ensure that divine harmony remained fixed in the world. The pyramid, then, was not only a tomb but a temple of numbers, a bridge between human and cosmic order. Some have gone further still. They suggest that the pyramid was a kind of code-breaking key, designed not to store information but to teach a way of seeing, to stand within its walls, to measure its angles, to follow its proportions, is to be led gradually toward revelation, the realization that the universe is ordered, that chaos can be measured, that truth lies hidden in form. The pyramid becomes less a vault and more a teacher. Others, more radical, believe the numbers are warnings. Encoded within the pyramid are cycles of destruction, floods, earthquakes, cataclysms. By recording astronomical cycles, the builders may have been warning future civilizations of the disasters that inevitably return. To them, the pyramid was not only a monument to eternity but a message in a bottle, a survival manual cast forward in time. If this is true, then the pyramid is not a relic but a prophecy. And yet, there is a paradox here. Numbers are universal, yes, but they require interpretation. We see pi and phi because we know them. Did the builders intend those values? Or are we projecting our own understanding onto their work? The pyramid may be a mirror, reflecting not only the knowledge of the ancients, but the obsessions of those who study it. But perhaps this too is a point. A true code is not obvious. It demands engagement, interpretation, struggle. The pyramid, like a riddle, gives back as much as we bring to it. For those who see only stone, it is stone. For those who see the cosmos, it is a cosmos. Its language of numbers is open-ended, endlessly rich, a living dialogue between past and present. Still, one fact remains undeniable. The pyramid is not random. Its proportions are too precise, its alignments too deliberate. Whether the builders intended to encode Earth's measurements, cosmic constants, or cycles of time, they left behind a structure that continues to speak across millennia. We may debate what the numbers mean, but we cannot deny that they are there. The pyramid stands as a reminder that numbers, like stars, are eternal. Civilizations rise and fall, languages are forgotten, empires turn to dust. But numbers remain, and in the silence of Giza, the builders chose as permanence, to carve their wisdom not into fragile scrolls, but into the very bones of geometry. The language of numbers is not only about what the ancients knew, but about what we have forgotten, that mathematics can be sacred, that proportion can be prayer, that stone can speak. And so, as the desert winds sweep over its ancient blocks, the Great Pyramid whispers still, in a tongue older than any human speech, the language of eternity, spoken through numbers. Beneath the silent mass of the Great Pyramid lies a realm far less understood than its towering exterior. For centuries, explorers, archaeologists, and adventurers have descended into its dark passages in search of hidden truths. The interior, with its ascending corridors, massive granite blocks, and enigmatic chambers, is already a labyrinth of wonder. But whispers persist that what we see today is only the beginning, that below the sands, beneath foundations unseen, there are secrets still buried, waiting for discovery. The known subterranean chamber is a curious place, carved deep into the bedrock. It appears unfinished, rough-hewn, as of abandoned mid-construction. To some, it is a decoy, a false chamber built to mislead tomb robbers. To others, it is a ritual space, a symbolic descent into the underworld. And yet, questions remain. Why would master builders capable of such precision leave a chamber so crude? Could it conceal a deeper passage, a hidden entrance to something more profound? Legends abound of secret tunnels beneath the pyramid. Ancient texts speak of hidden passages leading to vast halls of records, places where knowledge from lost ages was stored. Herodotus, the Greek historian, wrote of underground chambers filled with treasures and sacred relics. Later Arab writers described secret doors and locked vaults beneath the sands of Giza. For centuries, these tales have fueled dreams of hidden libraries, archives that might contain the story of a forgotten civilization. In modern times, technology has begun to pierce the mysteries of the underground. Ground-penetrating radar and muon tomography have revealed anomalies beneath and around the pyramid, voids, cavities, and spaces unaccounted for. Are these natural fissures in the bedrock, or are they man-made? Egypt's desert has kept its secrets well, but the data hints that beneath the familiar corridors may lie entire sections of the pyramid yet unexplored. Some suggest that beneath Giza stretches an entire network of tunnels, connecting not only the three Great Pyramids but also the Sphinx and nearby temples. These passages, according to legend, form an underground city, a hidden world where priests and initiates once moved in secrecy, away from the eyes of common people. If true, it would mean that what we see on the desert surface is but a fraction of a much larger sacred complex, designed not only for the dead but for the mysteries of the living. The most persistent of these legends is the idea of the Hall of Records. According to esoteric traditions, this hall contains scrolls, tablets, and devices recording the history of humanity before history, a record of a time when gods or advanced beings walked the earth. Some connect this legend to Atlantis, claiming the survivors of that lost civilization built the pyramid as both monument and vault. If so, then the sand conceal more than stone. They hide the story of our species itself. Skeptics, of course, dismiss such notions. They argue that most tunnels beneath Giza were cut by tomb robbers or later intruders, not master builders. The unfinished subterranean chamber may simply have been abandoned because plans changed. The so-called anomalies detected by modern scanning could be nothing more than irregularities in stone. For mainstream archaeology, the pyramid is already extraordinary without the need for secret vaults or lost libraries. Yet the allure of the underground persists. Perhaps it is because what is hidden always fascinates us more than what is seen. Or perhaps, on some level, we sense that the pyramid is not finished with its revelations. Every discovery, from the hidden void above the Grand Gallery, detected in 2017, to subtle anomalies beneath the bedrock, adds fuel to the suspicion that we have only scratched the surface of what lies below. For the ancient Egyptians, the underworld was sacred. It was a realm of Osiris, the god of rebirth, where souls passed through trials before reaching eternal life. To carve chambers beneath the pyramid was to mirror this cosmic journey, to guide the pharaoh from the world of the living into the realm of the divine. If the pyramid hides secrets underground, they may not be treasures of gold, but treasures of spirit, lessons about death, rebirth, and eternity. And yet, the possibility of something tangible remains irresistible. Imagine if beneath the pyramid were found a chamber sealed for thousands of years, untouched since its construction. Inside, perhaps, are relics of lost knowledge, papyrus scrolls preserved against time, or artifacts crafted with techniques we no longer understand. Such a discovery would not only change our view of ancient Egypt, but rewrite human history itself. But there's also danger in such dreams. To open a sealed chamber is to risk destroying what it holds. Ancient air, fragile papyrus, delicate relics, all could disintegrate the moment modern light and oxygen touch them. This may be one reason why Egyptian authorities approach such possibilities with caution. The pyramid, after all, has stood for millennia. Its secrets, if they remain, will not vanish with patience. Beneath the sands of Giza, then, lies both mystery and promise. Perhaps the tunnels are nothing but shadows in stone, tricks of radar and imagination. Or perhaps they are the last unopened pages of a story written in architecture instead of ink. Either way, the thought of what lies below keeps the pyramid alive as a living riddle. Not a relic of the past, but an unfolding enigma still shaping our future. For the desert hides well. It buries cities, swallows temples, erases roads. But it does not destroy. It preserves. If beneath the pyramid something extraordinary waits, it is not lost. It is simply waiting. Waiting for the right eyes, the right minds, the right moment. The Great Pyramid rises above the sands, eternal and unyielding. But perhaps its true heart beats below, in darkness, in silence, in chambers no one has yet entered. To unlock those secrets is to open not only stone but time itself. And so the sands shift, the winds blow, and the pyramid endures, a sentinel guarding mysteries both above and below, whispering to us that the greatest secrets are always hidden where we least expect them. Every civilization that has built monuments to the divine has also whispered about guardians. The Great Pyramid is no exception. To stand before its massive walls is to feel watched, as if unseen eyes linger within the limestone. For millennia, travelers, explorers, and grave robbers alike have told of curses, shadows, and forces beyond comprehension that guard Egypt's ancient tombs. But when it comes to the Great Pyramid, the stories reach an altogether different level. Tales of supernatural protectors, unexplainable deaths, and powers that defy reason. The concept of guardianship in ancient Egypt was deeply spiritual. Temples and tombs were not merely structures of stone. They were thresholds between the worlds of the living and the divine. To trespass was to invite punishment. Hieroglyphic warnings carved into lesser tombs often read, "Cursed be who disturbs the rest of the pharaoh." While no such explicit curse has ever been found inside the Great Pyramid, the sheer scale of the monument suggested its own warning. Why would such extraordinary lengths be taken if not to safeguard something of immeasurable value? Legends of curses surrounding Egypt reached global fame in the 1920s after the discovery of Tutankhamun's tomb. Newspapers screamed of the pharaoh's curse when several people linked to the expedition died mysteriously. But these tales were not new. Long before, explorers entering the Great Pyramid reported strange sensations, dizziness, sudden illness, or feelings of being watched. Some spoke of whispers in the dark or the impression of cold hands brushing their skin. Skeptics call it imagination, yet those who felt it swore it was real. The most enduring belief is that spirits, perhaps the Ka or life force of the pharaoh, still dwell within the pyramid, ensuring that sacred knowledge and relics remain untouched. Ancient Egyptians believed that death was not an end but a transformation. A king buried within the pyramid would not merely rest, he would become eternal. If so, might his essence remain, a guardian unseen, warning intruders to leave? More dramatic are stories of energy fields said to envelop the pyramid. Some early explorers reported compasses spinning wildly inside, as though magnetic forces were distorted. Others claimed torches flickered strangely, casting shadows that move where no wind blew. In modern times, certain researchers insist that the pyramid amplifies natural earth energies, creating an invisible barrier that repels the unworthy. A myth, perhaps, yet it adds to the sense that the monument is more than stone. It is alive. One chilling tale dates back to the 19th century. A British adventurer, eager to uncover hidden treasures, spent a night alone inside the king's chamber. The next morning, he stumbled out, pale and shaking, claiming he had seen a giant figure made of light standing over the sarcophagus. He swore that the being lifted a hand as if in warning. He fled Egypt soon after and never spoke of it again. The story spread, adding fuel to the idea that something, or someone, still stands watch within the pyramid's walls. But not all guardians were thought to be spiritual. Some believe that the ancient architects themselves created traps and devices to ward off intruders. Tales persist of sealed doors that collapse tunnels behind them, of stone blocks that shift unexpectedly, or of hidden mechanisms designed to crush anyone who ventures too far. Though little evidence of such traps has been confirmed in the Great Pyramid, explorers have found mysterious blocking stones, false passages, and sudden dead ends, features that feel less like mistakes and more like defenses. The notion of guardians also extends to animals. Cats, sacred to the goddess Bastet, were often seen as protectors. Some legends claim that giant spectral cats roam the passages of the pyramid, eyes glowing in the dark. Even today, stray cats often linger around Giza, their presence eerie in the moonlight, as if continuing an ancient vigil. Modern science offers alternative explanations. Claustrophobia, lack of oxygen, the hum of wind through narrow shafts, all could create sensations of unease or hallucinations. Mysterious death may be attributed to ancient mold spores or toxins sealed in the chambers for millennia. Yet, for many, these rationalizations do little to diminish the aura of dread. Even the most skeptical archaeologist feels a weight of centuries pressing down inside the pyramid, a silence so heavy it feels like a presence. The deeper one looks, the more one realizes that the concept of guardianship is not merely superstition. It is a reflection of the pyramid's true purpose, protection, whether of a body, a soul, or a secret. The monument exists to guard. Its very geometry, its alignment with the stars, its impenetrable mass, all are acts of defense. The guardians may not be spirits or curses, but the structure itself, designed to outlast time, to shield its mystery from every generation that comes seeking answers. And yet, perhaps the legends serve their own purpose. A story of curses and guardians may deter the reckless, preserving what lies within. Fear can be a kind of woe. For if the pyramid holds knowledge too dangerous for unprepared hands, what better safeguard than the whisper that entering means death? As the centuries pass, the stories only deepen. Tourists still report strange sensations. Researchers note anomalies in instruments. Locals speak of lights over the pyramid at night. Are these echoes of guardians still at work? Or are they the voices of our own imagination, conjuring protectors because we know, instinctively, that what the pyramid guards is not to be taken lightly? The Great Pyramid stands not just as stone, but as a fortress of meaning. Whatever its guardians may be, spirits, traps, energies, or myths, their presence ensures that its secrets endure. And in that endurance, the pyramid continues to whisper, approach with respect, for within these walls lies more than history. The Great Pyramid is a marvel not only because of its sheer size, but also because of its precision. Every angle, every measurement, every block seems to echo a deeper meaning, as though the builders encoded knowledge into stone. For centuries, scholars, mathematicians, and dreamers have stood before its walls and asked the same question. Was this monument merely a tomb? Or was it a code, a message written in geometry, meant to endure for eternity? The first striking detail is its alignment. Each side of the pyramid faces almost perfectly to the cardinal points of the compass, north, south, east, and west. This feat, achieved thousands of years before the invention of the modern compass, baffles even today's engineers. To achieve such accuracy, the builders would have had to study the stars with incredible precision, mapping the heavens onto the earth itself. The pyramid, then, was not simply built on the desert. It was aligned with the universe. Its proportions are equally astonishing. The ratio of the pyramid's height to the perimeter of its base corresponds almost exactly to 2 pi, the mathematical constant describing the circle. Was this intentional or a coincidence? If intentional, it means the ancient Egyptians understood advanced geometry long before the Greeks formalized it. Even more mysterious is the suggestion that the pyramid encodes a golden ratio, phi, a proportion found in natural forms, from seashells to galaxies, and in countless works of sacred architecture. Mathematics is not the only secret hidden here. Astronomical codes also seem embedded in the design. Scholars have noted that the descending passage of the pyramid once aligned with the star Thuban in the constellation Draco, which was the pole star around 2600 BCE. The so-called air shafts leading from the king's and queen's chambers also align with specific stars, Orion's belt, associated with Osiris, and Sirius, linked to the goddess Isis. These alignments suggest that the pyramid was not only a tomb but also a celestial machine, designed to guide the pharaoh's soul to the stars. But why such precision? Why embed so many codes into stone? Some believe the pyramid was built as a kind of eternal clock, preserving astronomical knowledge for future generations. By aligning the structure with stars and encoding numbers into its proportions, the builders may have been recording the cosmic order of their time, a snapshot of the heavens carved into limestone. Others see a deeper purpose. They argue that the pyramid encodes not just the heavens but also the earth itself. The base perimeter of the pyramid, when measured in certain units, reflects the circumference of the earth with uncanny accuracy. The height, similarly, can be interpreted to represent the earth's radius. If true, this means that the builders knew the size of our planet thousands of years before it was calculated in Greece. Could this be coincidence? Or was it deliberate, an attempt to preserve the dimensions of the earth itself for eternity? Still more astonishing are claims that the pyramid encodes time. Some researchers suggest that its passages and chambers were designed as a prophetic timeline, each step representing years in human history. According to this theory, key intersections within the corridors correspond to major world events, as though the pyramid's architects were writing history in advance. Skeptics dismiss this as numerological fantasy. Yet, the notion persists, fed by uncanny coincidences between the pyramid's dimensions and pivotal dates. The mathematical elegance of the pyramid becomes even more profound when viewed alongside ancient traditions of sacred geometry. Across cultures, from India to Greece, geometry was seen as a language of the divine, a way to communicate eternal truths. Circles, triangles, and ratios were not merely abstract. They were symbols of the universe's hidden order. If the pyramid encodes such ratios, it may not be random at all. It may be the Egyptians' way of preserving universal knowledge. truths they believed too important to vanish with time. This leads us to one of the most tantalizing questions. Who were these architects, and how did they gain such knowledge? Conventional history teaches us that the builders were Egyptians of the 4th dynasty, brilliant engineers but limited to the tools and mathematics of their age. Yet, if the pyramid truly encodes advanced constants of geometry and astronomy, does this suggest an inheritance from a much older source? Perhaps a lost civilization, now forgotten, whose wisdom was preserved in Egypt's greatest monument. Some see in this possibility echoes of Atlantis, or of other ancient myths describing golden ages before recorded history. The pyramid, in this view, is not merely a tomb but a library in stone, a way of passing forward knowledge from one age to the next. Instead of scrolls that rot or words that fade, the builders chose the most durable medium, geometry itself, carved into the very bones of the earth. Not all are convinced, of course. Many archaeologists argue that the pyramid's dimensions can be interpreted in countless ways, and that humans are skilled at finding patterns even where none exist. Numbers can be twisted to fit theories, they warn. But even if some interpretations are exaggerations, the undeniable fact remains. The pyramid is astonishingly precise, more so than it needed to be if it were merely a royal tomb. Why go to such lengths if there was not a deeper purpose? The codes in the pyramid do more than dazzle mathematicians and astronomers. They inspire awe. They remind us that ancient people, often dismissed as primitive, were capable of grasping truths that still resonate in modern science. Whether intentionally encoded or not, the pyramid connects heaven and earth, man and cosmos, time and eternity. Perhaps this was its greatest purpose all along, to remind us that we are part of a larger order, that our lives are not separate from the stars above or the ground beneath. The pyramid's codes whisper across time, telling us that knowledge can be eternal if it is carved into the right shape, built with the right vision, aligned to the eternal sky. And so the monument stands, a riddle of numbers and stars, daring us to solve its code. But perhaps the true secret is not in the answer, but in the question, in the very act of searching, of looking up at the stars and realizing, as the builders surely did, that we too are part of the cosmic design. Deep within the labyrinth of the Great Pyramid lies a place unlike any other, chambers where sound itself behaves as if alive. For those who have entered, the experience is unforgettable. The king's chamber, carved from massive blocks of red granite, does not merely reflect sound. It seems to amplify it, bend it, even transform it. A whisper becomes a vibration in the bones. A chant lingers as though the walls themselves are singing back. This phenomenon has given rise to one of the pyramid's most mysterious reputations, that it is not only a tomb or monument, but an instrument. The acoustics of the king's chamber are extraordinary. Modern researchers have tested it with scientific instruments, discovering that the chamber resonates at specific frequencies. One of these frequencies, around 440 Hz, corresponds almost exactly to the modern concert pitch of A. Another aligns with frequencies used in ancient chants and ritual music across cultures. The suggestion is chilling. The chamber was deliberately designed to resonate, to harness sound as a tool of transformation. Imagine the ancient rituals that might have taken place here. Priests or initiates chanting in unison, their voices amplified and multiplied by the stone, filling the space with a sound so powerful it altered consciousness. To the participants, it would have felt as if the gods themselves were speaking back through the walls. The chamber, in this sense, was not silent. It was alive with the echoes of eternity. But the mystery deepens when we consider the materials. Granite is rich in quartz crystals, which have piezoelectric properties, meaning they can generate energy when compressed or vibrated. Some researchers speculate that the chants and tones resonating through the granite could have created subtle energy effects, perhaps even electrical charges. If so, then the pyramid was not only amplifying sound but also transforming it into energy. The queen's chamber, smaller but equally enigmatic, adds another layer to the puzzle. Its peculiar niches and shafts suggest it too was designed with acoustics in mind. When sound is made inside, the chamber produces strange reverberations, as if multiple voices are speaking at once. Some who have stood there describe hearing tones that were not sung, harmonics that emerged spontaneously. Could this have been a place for initiation, where sound served as a bridge between the earthly and the divine? Throughout history, cultures have recognized the power of sound. From Tibetan monks using deep chants to alter states of mind, to Native American drums echoing through ritual dances, Vibration has always been a tool of the sacred. The Egyptians, with their mastery of architecture and symbolism, may have elevated this understanding into stone itself. The pyramid, then, would not merely be a resting place for a king, but a resonating temple designed to unlock higher states of being. Legends support this idea. Ancient Arab accounts speak of strange voices heard within the pyramid at night. Some said the stones themselves hummed, as if filled with a hidden life. Modern visitors, too, often report feeling a buzzing of vibration in their bodies when standing in the king's chamber, especially when sound is made. Skeptics dismiss this as imagination or the result of enclosed space. But those who experience it insist it is something more, a physical, spiritual phenomenon that cannot be explained away so easily. The possibility that sound was central to the pyramid's purpose also raises another provocative question. Could sound have been used in its construction? Some fringe theories suggest that the Egyptians, or whoever inspired them, possessed knowledge of acoustics so advanced that they used resonance to move massive stones. According to this theory, chanting or using instruments of precise frequencies could have reduced the weight of the stones or disrupted gravity itself. Mainstream science has never confirmed such a possibility, but the idea persists, fed by the fact that the pyramid's largest blocks, weighing up to 80 tons, were transported and set with precision still difficult to explain. More cautious theories propose that sound was used not to build, but to sanctify. Each block, once placed, could have been ritually tuned with chants, harmonizing the structure as a whole. In this way, the pyramid will become a vast symphony of stone, each block vibrating in unison with the cosmos. If true, then the pyramid is more than architecture, it is music made solid, a frozen hymn resonating across time. When one stands inside and sings, the song is not merely echoed, it is joined by the stones, carried forward as though the building itself has remembered ancient voices and sings them back. Yet, perhaps the most profound mystery is psychological. Sound, after all, is not only physical vibration. It alters the mind, shifting brain waves, stirring emotion. In the chamber's resonant frequencies, one might feel lifted out of the body, carried into visions, or plunged into profound stillness. For the Egyptians, obsessed with death and rebirth, this experience would mirror the soul's journey into the afterlife. In the Chamber of Echoes, one did not simply chant. One crossed into another state of being. To modern ears, the echoes of the pyramid may be haunting. To the ancients, they may have been divine. Whether a tomb, a temple, or something more, the pyramid continues to speak, not in words, but in vibrations that ripple through stone and soul alike. Perhaps this is a true secret of the pyramid. Not treasure, not lost texts, but sound itself. The recognition that vibration is a bridge between matter and spirit, the cosmos and the human heart. That every block of stone, every chamber, was shaped to remind us that the universe is not silent. It hums, it sings, it resonates. And in the heart of the pyramid, that eternal song still lingers, waiting for those who dare to listen. To gaze upon the Great Pyramid is to confront a paradox. On one hand, history insists it was the work of men, thousands of labors overseen by brilliant architects during the reign of Pharaoh Khufu. On the other, the sheer precision and complexity of the structure hint at knowledge that seems out of step with its supposed time. How did a civilization of the Bronze Age achieve feats that still challenge the most advanced engineers of today? The question haunts every block of limestone, every corridor, every alignment with the stars. The story taught in schools is straightforward. A vast workforce, supplied with copper tools, sledges, and ropes, quarried stone from nearby sites and dragged them to Giza. But when one examines the details, cracks begin to show. Some of the granite blocks in the king's chamber weigh more than 70 tons and were transported from quarries hundreds of miles away. Even with modern cranes, moving such blocks is a dangerous feat. How, then, did the Egyptians manage it with nothing more than primitive tools? One explanation is lost technology. Perhaps the builders possessed methods of construction that have since vanished from history. Could they have used mechanical devices, ingenious leverage systems, or even forms of knowledge we would today call advanced science? Some fringe theorists go further, suggesting that the builders understood principles of sound, magnetism, or gravity in ways we no longer do. While mainstream archaeology rejects such claims, the fact remains that the construction techniques described in textbooks leave many questions unanswered. Ancient texts offer tantalizing hints. Some inscriptions describe the gods lifting stones with the sound of their voices. To later readers, these lines might be poetry. But what if they record something real, a memory of acoustic or vibrational technologies long forgotten? Could the Great Pyramid itself, with its resonant chambers, be evidence that the Egyptians were experimenting with sound not just for ritual, but for engineering? Equally mysterious is the level of mathematical knowledge encoded in the pyramid's design. As explored earlier, its proportions suggest awareness of pi, the golden ratio, and even the dimensions of the Earth. Yet, according to conventional history, such concepts were not formally defined until centuries later in Greece. Did the Egyptians stumble upon them by chance, or did they inherit them from a deeper well of knowledge, one that predates written history? The idea of inherited knowledge is not new. Plato wrote of Atlantis, a lost civilization destroyed in a cataclysm, whose survivors carried fragments of wisdom into later cultures. Could Egypt have been one of those inheritors, preserving knowledge from an age we no longer remember? If so, the Great Pyramid may be more than a tomb. It may be a vault, a vessel designed to transmit knowledge across time. But if such knowledge existed, why was it lost? The answer may lie in the cycles of history itself. Civilizations rise, achieve wonders, and collapse. Fires consume libraries. Invaders plunder treasures. Priests guard secrets that later generations forget. The Library of Alexandria, said to hold scrolls of immeasurable value, was destroyed in antiquity, erasing centuries of accumulated wisdom. If the Egyptians once possessed insights into advanced mathematics, astronomy, or even natural forces, it is easy to imagine how such knowledge could vanish in the tides of history. Even so, echoes remain. The Greeks, who studied in Egypt, admitted as much. Figures like Pythagoras and Plato traveled to Egyptian temples, where they were initiated into mysteries guarded by the priests. What they brought back became the foundation of Western philosophy, mathematics, and geometry. Yet they themselves acknowledged that they were only inheriting fragments of something older, something deeper. Perhaps the greatest tragedy is not that the knowledge was lost, but that we only ever glimpse its surface. Modern researchers continue to chase these shadows. Some believe that by studying the pyramid, we can recover what was lost. The precision of its angles, the alignment of its passages, the choice of materials, all may contain clues. The pyramid becomes not just a relic, but a puzzle. Each stone, each proportion, is a line in a code. To decipher it is to reclaim a forgotten science. Skeptics warn against romanticizing the past. They argue that the Egyptians were brilliant within their context, but not supernatural. That human ingenuity, patience, and manpower are sufficient explanation. But even skeptics admit the achievements of the pyramid are extraordinary, so extraordinary, in fact, that they remain unparalleled. If all we see is a work of determination and skill, it still demands respect. But if, behind that determination, there was knowledge now vanished, the pyramid becomes even more than a marvel. It becomes a beacon pointing to something we lost. There is also an emotional dimension to this mystery. Knowledge is power. To lose it is tragedy. To imagine a time when human beings understood things we do not, when they grasped truths about the earth, the cosmos, or even the human spirit, is to feel both awe and grief. The pyramid whispers to us of forgotten greatness, a reminder that we are not the first to reach for stars. Perhaps this is a true riddle of the Great Pyramid. It is not only about how it was built, but what it represents, the memory of a knowledge so profound it could shape stone into eternity. Whether that knowledge was mathematical, astronomical, or spiritual, we may never know in full. But the possibility that such wisdom once existed, and that it was lost, should give us pause. What else have we forgotten? What other truths lie buried in the sands of time, erased by conquest and catastrophe? The Great Pyramid stands, in this sense, as both triumph and warning. Triumph, because it shows what humanity is capable of at its height. Warning, because it reminds us how fragile knowledge is, how easily wisdom can vanish. The stones endure, but the minds that conceive them are gone. We are left with the shell, the riddle, the echo. And so, when we look upon the pyramid, we are not just seeing a tomb or monument. We are seeing a ghost, the ghost of a knowledge that once was, and may never be again, unless, that is, we learn to listen carefully to the codes it still holds, waiting in silence, written not in ink but in stone. When it comes to the Great Pyramid, mainstream history draws a clear boundary. It was built as a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu, using the tools and methods of the Old Kingdom. Yet beyond that boundary lies a realm of speculation, a realm of forbidden theories. These are the ideas dismissed by academics as pseudoscience, yet embraced by countless researchers, explorers, and seekers who feel the orthodox story leaves too many questions unanswered. To explore these theories is to venture into controversial territory, but it is also to open the imagination to possibilities that could transform our understanding of history itself. One of the most persistent forbidden theories is that the Great Pyramid was not built as a tomb at all. Despite centuries of searching, no mummy has ever been found inside. The so-called sarcophagus in the king's chamber is empty and unadorned, unlike the lavishly decorated coffins of known pharaohs. This absence of evidence has led some to suggest the pyramid had another purpose altogether. Could it have been a temple of initiation, a machine for harnessing natural energy, or even a message encoded in stone for future civilizations? Among the most provocative ideas is a theory that the pyramid functioned as a power plant. Proponents argue that its internal chambers, passageways, and use of materials like granite and limestone suggest it was designed to channel and amplify natural energies. Granite, rich in quartz, has piezoelectric properties, meaning it can generate electricity under pressure. Some researchers speculate that the vibrations of the earth funneled through the pyramid's passages could have been converted into usable energy. In this view, the Great Pyramid was less a tomb and more a colossal machine, one capable of producing power long before humanity officially discovered electricity. Linked to this is the idea that the pyramid acted as a resonance chamber. The narrow shafts, the acoustics of the king's chamber, and the precise geometry could all be evidence of a structure built to manipulate sound and vibration. Modern experiments inside the pyramid have shown that sound resonates at specific frequencies, producing standing waves. Could the ancient builders have understood this? Some suggest that these resonances were used for spiritual transformation, inducing altered states of consciousness during rituals. Others believe they had practical applications, such as levitation of heavy stones or communication across distances. Even more controversial is the theory of extraterrestrial involvement. Popularized by writers like Erich von Däniken, this idea suggests the builders of the pyramid either had help from advanced beings or were themselves inheritors of alien knowledge. Proponents point to the precision of the construction, the astronomical alignments, and the advanced mathematics encoded in its design as evidence that the Egyptians could not have achieved it alone. To orthodox scholars, this theory undermines the achievements of ancient Egyptians, but to its supporters, it acknowledges that the pyramid may have origins far older and stranger than we dare admit. Another forbidden theory holds that the Great Pyramid is much older than conventional history claims. Archaeologists date it to around 4,500 years ago, during Khufu's reign. But some researchers argue that the erosion patterns on nearby monuments, such as the Sphinx, suggest exposure to heavy rainfall that predates the Sahara Desert's dryness, possibly tens of thousands of years earlier. If true, the pyramid may not be a product of the Old Kingdom at all, but a legacy from a forgotten civilization lost to time. This theory ties back to myths of Atlantis or other advanced prehistoric cultures, whose knowledge was destroyed in cataclysm. There are also theories about the pyramid as a coded message. Some suggest it encodes the dimensions of the earth, the precession of the equinoxes, or even prophesies of future events. According to this view, the builders intended the pyramid as a stone textbook, a way to preserve crucial knowledge through the ages. The absence of inscriptions inside, far from being a mystery, is interpreted as deliberate. The message is not in words, but in numbers, geometry, and alignment with the stars. Of course, such theories are not without critics. Archaeologists argue that there is ample evidence linking the pyramid to Khufu, including quarry marks inside the structure that bears name. They note that alternative explanations often rely on speculation rather than data, and that extraordinary claims demand extraordinary evidence. Yet the persistence of forbidden theory speaks to something deeper. People sense that the official story does not satisfy every question. They sense that the pyramid is more than stones stacked in the desert. The allure of forbidden theories lies partly in their challenge to authority. To believe in them is to reject the limits of what we are told is possible. It is to imagine that the past may have held wonders greater than we dare admit. But it is also a reflection of human longing, the desire to connect with something larger than ourselves, whether that is an ancient civilization of genius, a cosmic order encoded in geometry, or even visitors from the stars. Ultimately, forbidden theories remind us of the pyramid's power as a symbol. It is not only a monument of Egypt, but a canvas onto which every generation projects its questions, fears, and hopes. For some, it is proof of human ingenuity. For others, it is evidence of a hidden history. For still others, it is a gateway to the unknown. The truth may lie somewhere in between, or it may lie far beyond anything we can currently imagine. What cannot be denied is this: the Great Pyramid resists final explanation. It is both a physical structure and a mystery that defies the passage of time. Forbidden theories may never gain acceptance in textbooks, but they ensure that the pyramid continues to live in our imagination, not just as a monument of stone, but as a riddle that challenges our understanding of the human story. For more than 4,000 years, the Great Pyramid of Giza has stood as a sentinel on the desert plateau, its sharp angles rising from the sands as it defined both time and decay. Empires have risen and fallen around it. Conquerors have passed beneath its shadow. Religions have been born and faded. And yet the pyramid remains, untouched by the ages, a silent riddle etched into stone. To walk around it today is to feel a weight that is not just physical, but existential, the sense that humanity once touched something vast and then lost it. We have explored the accepted history, the narrative of Pharaoh Khufu, his workers, and the tools of the Old Kingdom. We have wandered through chambers that resonate like living instruments, and we have considered the possibility that the builders encoded mathematics, astronomy, and cosmic truths within its stones. We have even ventured into forbidden theories, from lost civilizations to power plants and extraterrestrial intervention. And yet, after all this, the question remains as elusive as ever. What were they protecting? The beauty of the pyramid's mystery is that it resists final answers. Every discovery seems to deepen the puzzle rather than solve it. The shaft that stretched toward the stars, are they symbolic pathways for the king's soul or celestial markers for forgotten science? The acoustics of the chambers, were they designed for ritual chanting or to generate energy from vibration? The absence of inscriptions, was it an omission or a deliberate act to ensure that meaning is preserved through form rather than language? Each question branches into another, like the labyrinthine passageways inside the monument itself. Yet perhaps the greatest mystery of the Great Pyramid lies not in its stones, but in us. Why does this structure, more than any other ancient monument, captivate the human imagination so completely? Why do we return to it again and again in search of answers? The answer may be simple, because it is both familiar and alien. It is undeniably human in scale and craft, and yet it seems beyond what human beings of that era should have been capable of. It embodies both pride in our ancestors' genius and suspicion that something greater is hidden in our past. For some, the pyramid is a symbol of human ingenuity, proof that determination and labor can overcome any obstacle. For others, it is a message from antiquity, encoded in stone for us to decipher when we are ready. For still others, it is a cosmic riddle, a reminder that we are part of a universe much larger and more mysterious than we know. In every interpretation, the pyramid serves as a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears and hopes, the fear of forgetting who we are, and the hope that meaning lies hidden, waiting to be uncovered. As the sun sets over Giza, the golden light bathing its weathered limestone, one cannot help but feel that the pyramid is alive. Not alive in the biological sense, but alive as a vessel of memory. It carries within its stones the aspirations of those who built it, the rituals of those who walked its chambers, and the questions of those who came after. It has absorbed human wonder for millennia, and in turn, it gives that wonder back to anyone who stands in its presence. What if the secret it protects is not a single answer, but the very act of questioning itself? The pyramid endures because it keeps us searching, keeps us imagining, keeps us reaching beyond the limits of what we know. It is a teacher that never speaks, yet teaches endlessly, a monument that never changes, yet transforms everyone who encounters it. Its true power may not be in the codes hidden within its angles, but in the curiosity it awakens in every generation. The Great Pyramid's enduring mystery is not a flaw to be solved, but a gift to be cherished. In a world where so much is mapped, explained, and digitized, it reminds us that some things remain vast and unknowable. It tells us that the human story is incomplete, and perhaps it always will be. And that is not a tragedy, but a kind of grace. For mystery keeps us alive, pushing us forward, compelling us to dream. So the question lingers, echoing like a whisper in the king's chamber. What were they protecting? Was it knowledge, power, or a sacred truth too dangerous to reveal? Or was it something even greater, the mystery itself, preserved in stone, to remind us that the pursuit of answers is what makes us human? As long as the pyramid stands, so too will that question. And perhaps that is exactly as it was meant to be. Imagine, for a moment, that one day the Great Pyramid finally gives up its secret. A hidden chamber revealed, an artifact discovered, an inscription decoded that confirms everything long dismissed as myth. What then? How would our world, modern, technological, confident in its knowledge, react to the sudden unveiling of truths preserved in silence for millennia? History is a fragile thing. It is not a fixed record, but a story we tell ourselves about who we are and where we came from. If the pyramid's secret were revealed and it contradicted that story, the implications would be staggering. Suppose, for instance, evidence emerged that the pyramid was not built in the Old Kingdom, but by a civilization lost to time, one that possessed knowledge of astronomy, engineering, or energy that we have only begun to rediscover. Overnight, everything we thought we knew about human history would be rewritten. The past would become deeper, more complex, and infinitely stranger. Religions might tremble, too. For centuries, faith traditions have drawn strength from the idea that humanity's sacred origins are known and contained within holy texts. But what if the pyramid revealed a universal code, a system of knowledge linking sound, mathematics, and the stars, suggesting that the divine was not confined to one culture, one scripture, one God, but inscribed in the very structure of the universe itself? Such a revelation could unite humanity under shared or divide it, as old institutions fight to preserve their authority. Then there is science. For centuries, scientists have prided themselves on explaining mysteries, not bowing before them. But the pyramid has always been a challenge, a riddle too perfect to ignore. If it turned out that the ancients understood principles of energy, vibration, or cosmic alignment beyond what we currently grasp, the foundations of modern science would be shaken. Theories of progress, the idea that knowledge always moves forward, would falter. We would have to ask ourselves, what else was known long ago and then forgotten? And let us not overlook the psychological effect on us, the ordinary people, to learn that our ancestors, whether Egyptian or from some lost civilization, built the pyramid not as a tomb but as a vessel of eternal knowledge would ignite both wonder and fear. Wonder, because it would expand the horizon of what humans are capable of. Fear, because it would remind us that civilizations rise and fall, and that our own is not immune to forgetting. The pyramid would no longer be just a tourist site or an archaeological puzzle. It would be a message across time, addressed directly to us, demanding that we listen. The question, what were they protecting, would take on new urgency. If the pyramid holds knowledge, was it protected because it was too powerful, too dangerous to be left in the open? Was it hidden away so that only a future generation, perhaps ours, would be able to unlock it? And if that is true, then we are faced with a chilling possibility. Maybe we are the intended recipient of the pyramid's code. Maybe the builders left it for us, knowing that one day we would need it. If so, what is it we are meant to learn? Some imagine it could be a warning, that the builders lived through a catastrophe, an age-ending disaster, and sought to leave behind a blueprint for survival. Others believe it is a key to transcendence, a way to reconnect with the cosmos, to awaken dormant capacities of the human mind and spirit. Whatever the truth, it would not leave us unchanged. To unlock the pyramid's code is not just to understand history differently, but to understand ourselves differently. Perhaps the most unsettling thought of all is this: what if the secret is not waiting to be revealed, but waiting to be lived? The pyramid may not be holding knowledge in the form of text or machines, but in the experience it creates. Its chambers, its alignments, its resonances, these are not symbols to be decoded, but tools to be used. In that sense, the pyramid's greatest secret may not be a hidden chamber at all, but the transformation it offers to anyone who dares to enter, chant, and listen to the echoes of eternity. And so we are left with a paradox. The Great Pyramid both withholds and gives. It refuses to yield a clear answer, yet it offers endless possibilities to those who seek. It is silent, yet it speaks. It is ancient, yet it remains more alive in our imagination than almost any modern structure. Perhaps its ultimate purpose was not to protect knowledge in the way we think, as facts, formulas, or prophesize, but to protect the mystery itself. Because mystery, more than certainty, drives us forward. Mystery keeps us searching, and in searching, we grow. If one day the pyramid secret is revealed, it may change history forever. But even if it never is, it has already changed us. It has shown us that human beings are capable of building monuments that transcend their own time. It has taught us that questions can be more powerful than answers, and it has reminded us, across the gulf of millennia, that we are part of something vast, a story larger than ourselves, written not in ink or parchment, but in stone aligned with the stars. The Great Pyramid may or may not be hiding a code, but it has already accomplished what every code is meant to do. It has called us to attention, forced us to think differently, and invited us into dialogue with the unknown. And perhaps that is a real revelation, not what is hidden inside, but what is awakened inside us. So let us return, one final time, to the question that began this journey. What were they protecting? The answer may not lie in secret chambers or cosmic blueprints, but in the very act of protection itself. The builders safeguarded the mystery, so that we, thousands of years later, would still be asking, still be searching, still be reaching toward the stars. And in that endless search, the pyramid achieves its purpose. It is not merely a monument to the past. It is a summons to the future. Stand at the base of the Great Pyramid today, and you will see not only an ancient monument, but a mirror, one that reflects back at you questions you may not even realize you were asking. It looms above the desert as it always has, yet in its silence, it speaks directly to the modern soul. For in the end, the story of the pyramid is not only about what happened thousands of years ago. It is also about us, who we are, what we believe, and what kind of future we are building. When you gaze at those immense stones, stacked with impossible precision, you are confronted with a challenge. What will our legacy be? The Egyptians, or perhaps a civilization even older, left behind a structure that has defied erosion, conquest, and time itself. It carries their voice across the ages, louder than any book or empire. Will anything we build endure so long? Will anything we create inspire generations yet unborn to wonder who we were and what we knew? The pyramid reminds us that human beings are more than consumers of the present moment. We are shapers of eternity. When we act, when we build, when we choose to preserve knowledge or create meaning, we are not only living for ourselves. We are leaving a trail, a monument, a code for others to follow. The Great Pyramid is proof that across the gulf of centuries, such a legacy can still ignite awe. And so we must ask, what will ignite awe when we are gone? There is another, more personal reflection the pyramid demands of us. To enter its chambers is to feel small, fragile, and yet strangely connected. The vast stones and narrow passages whisper a truth. Life is brief, but meaning can be eternal. The builders are long gone, their names mostly forgotten, but their work still speaks. It tells us that we, too, can reach beyond our lifetimes, not only with monuments of stone, but with acts of courage, wisdom, and love that ripple forward through time. The pyramid also calls us to humility. For all our technology, satellites, and artificial intelligence, we still cannot fully explain how or why it was built. It is a humbling reminder that progress is not always linear, that the ancients may have known things we have lost. And in that humility lies an invitation to listen more closely to the past, to respect its mysteries, and to learn from its silence. The pyramid shows us that forgetting is as human as remembering, and that sometimes the most valuable thing we can do is recover what has been lost. At the same time, it inspires hope. If human beings, thousands of years ago, with no modern machines, could create something that touches eternity, then what are we capable of today? What could we achieve if we combined our science, our imagination, and our unity with the same devotion the builders gave to their task? The pyramid is a monument not just to mystery, but to potential, a reminder that within us lies a capacity to touch the stars. And so, as the sun dips behind the horizon and the pyramid shadow stretches long across the sand, we are left with a final, haunting thought. Maybe the code it protects was never meant to be solved in the way we think. Maybe its true purpose was to awaken us, to stir our imagination, to remind us that mystery itself is sacred. The pyramid stands because mystery matters. Because wonder is not a luxury, but a necessity. It is what keeps us reaching, creating, searching. Without mystery, we become stagnant. With it, we move toward the infinite. The Great Pyramid belongs to the Egyptians, to history, and to archaeology, but it also belongs to us all. It belongs to every child who looks up at the stars and asks why. It belongs to every seeker who dares to step into the unknown. It belongs to every generation that refuses to accept easy answers and keeps pressing into the silence for deeper truths. As you turn away from the pyramid, whether in person or in imagination, carry with you this reflection. Its stones may not tell you what they were protecting, but they do tell you something else, that the search for meaning, the quest for truth, is itself the greatest treasure. That the journey, not the answer, is what makes us human. And that even in the silence of the desert, you are part of a story that began long before you and will continue long after you are gone. The pyramid and us, we are bound together in this eternal dance of mystery. It protects its secret, and we protect our wonder. In that bond lies the possibility of transformation for individuals and for civilization. Perhaps, in the end, that was a message all along. Night falls over Giza. The crowds disperse, the vendors close their stalls, and the desert grows quiet again. The Great Pyramid, bathed in moonlight, stands as it has for ages, silent, immovable, eternal. Yet in the stillness, there is a sense that it is not silent at all. For those who listen closely, it seems to hum as if the stones themselves are whispering to the night. What might they be saying? Perhaps they whisper the hands that shape them, thousands of workers whose sweat and breath fuse into every block. Perhaps they carry the prayers of priests, chanting in chambers that magnify their voices into eternity. Or perhaps they guard something deeper still, a knowledge too vast for words, entrusted to stone so it would never be lost. The whisper of the pyramid is subtle, not heard with the ears but felt with the heart. It is a whisper of questions that will not die. Who built this? Why here? Why with such precision? And what were they protecting? These questions echo across centuries, calling each generation to step forward and face the riddle anew. To some, the whisper is a challenge, a demand to solve the code, to pry open the chambers of secrecy until the truth is laid bare. To others, it is an invitation, a reminder that mystery itself is sacred, that not every riddle is meant to be unraveled. And to others still, it is a comfort, proof that even as civilizations fade, meaning can endure, carried forward not by memory alone but by the stones themselves. The last whisper of stone is not only about the past. It is about us, here and now. It asks us what we will protect, what we will leave behind, what truths we will entrust to the future. Will we leave monuments of wisdom, or only ruins of consumption? Will we guard mysteries that inspire, or secrets that destroy? The pyramid asks, and the answer is ours to give. As the desert winds sweep across its weathered face, the pyramid does what it has always done. It waits. It waits for us to return with new eyes, new questions, new courage. It waits for the next dreamer, the next seeker, the next soul bold enough to place an ear against its ancient stones and listen. And if you listen closely, not with ears, but with wonder, you may hear it too, the last whisper of stone, reminding you that you are part of the same mystery, the same story, the same eternal search. The screen fades to black, leaving only a single question, echoing in the silence. What were they protecting? The story of the Great Pyramid does not end when the documentary fades to black. In truth, it never ends. Its riddle endures, waiting in silence as it has for thousands of years, and each of us must decide how to carry that silence forward. What you have just witnessed is not a conclusion, but an invitation. The credits roll, but the questions remain. What if the code within the pyramid were meant not for kings, not for priests, but for us, the living, the curious, the seekers of truth? What if every stone, every angle, every shaft aligned with the stars is part of a larger design, one that we are only now beginning to recognize? And what if unlocking that design requires not chisels or machines, but imagination, humility, and courage? As the names scroll across the screen, you are invited to reflect on what this mystery awakens in you. Do you feel awe at the genius of the ancients? Do you feel frustration at the unanswered questions? Do you feel a sense of destiny, as if the pyramid itself were built to challenge you personally, to remind you that mystery is not something to be solved but something to be lived? The call to reflection is simple. Carry the question forward. Let it accompany you beyond this story, into your own life. Ask yourself what mysteries you are guarding, what truths you are protecting, what legacies you are leaving. Just as the builders of a pyramid carved their vision into stone, you, too, are shaping the future. Every act of curiosity, every pursuit of knowledge, every spark of wonder is a block in the monument of humanity. Perhaps, one day, long after we are gone, someone will look back at the traces we leave and ask of us the same haunting question. What were they protecting? And so, as the final notes fade and the screen darkens, we return to the beginning. The pyramid remains on the horizon, its angles sharp against the desert sky, its voice eternal. It does not answer. It does not need to. Its silence is its gift, a silence that stays the imagination, ignites the soul, and dares us to dream beyond the limits of what we know. This is a legacy of the Great Pyramid. This is a code it protects. And this is a reflection it leaves in you. The Great Pyramid is not only a monument of stone, but also a mirror of humanity's unending dialogue with time. Its presence transcends dynasties, empires, and civilizations, whispering the same question into the ears of every generation that beholds it. What were they protecting? To stand before it is to feel the weight of history pressing against the present, a reminder that we are not the first to wonder, nor will we be the last. Through the centuries, explorers, scholars, dreamers, and conquerors have all laid their gaze upon the pyramid. Each carried away their own interpretation, yet each also left something of themselves behind, a layer of thought, a trace of story, an echo that joined the endless conversation. Napoleon is said to have stood in its shadow and declared that centuries gazed down upon him. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing 2,000 years earlier, claimed to recount its secrets through Egyptian priests. Later still, mystics from the Middle Ages spun tales of hidden vaults and forbidden knowledge. All of them, across cultures and ages, were answering the same call, to find meaning where silence prevails. The pyramid does not only echo across time, but across civilizations. Consider the uncanny parallels found in distant lands. The step pyramids of Mesoamerica, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, the sacred mounds of China. Separated by oceans and millennia, these cultures nonetheless turned their eyes skyward, anchoring their monuments in the earth while aligning them with the heavens. Were they independently discovering the same truth, that geometry could bridge the human and the divine? Or were they inheriting fragments of forgotten code, one shared by an ancient, interconnected world whose traces still flicker at the edges of history? In these parallels lies a deep mystery. Were the builders of the Great Pyramid simply engineers, or were they initiates of a cosmic tradition, one whose echoes ripple into every corner of the human story? The alignment with Orion's belt, the precision of its angles, the ratio of its dimensions, all of these suggest a knowledge both mathematical and spiritual. It is as if the pyramid is not only a tomb or a temple, but a time capsule of wisdom, designed to outlast the voices of its creators. And what of us? We live in an age of satellites, telescopes, and algorithms, yet still we return to this ancient riddle. Modern technology allows us to scan its chambers, measure its vibrations, simulate its alignments with the stars. Each discovery answers one question but raises three more. And so, even with our machines and models, we remain humbled, for the pyramid refuses to yield itself completely. It withholds enough to remind us that there are truths which cannot be grasped by data alone. The echoes beyond time are not only archaeological or astronomical, they are deeply human. The workers who hold its blocks, the architects who trace its blueprints, the priests who walked its corridors, their lives may be gone, but their intention remains, fossilized in limestone. Perhaps their dream was not to immortalize a king, but to immortalize the very act of dreaming itself. In that sense, the pyramid is not a tomb but a message that human beings are capable of reaching beyond themselves, of touching eternity with stone. When we step back, we see that the pyramid is not an isolated marvel. It is part of a chorus, temples in India aligned with solstices, stone circles in Britain mapping lunar cycles, petroglyphs in deserts marking celestial paths. Across continents, humanity has always built with one eye on the sky. This universal impulse cannot be dismissed as coincidence. It is an echo of the same yearning, the same hunger to anchor ourselves in a universe that feels both immense and indifferent. The Great Pyramid silence is not empty. It resonates with all of these echoes, weaving them into a single story. It speaks of a human race that, regardless of language or era, sought to encode meaning into the world around it. Whether through myth, math, or monument, we have always tried to carve eternity into the fleetingness of life. And perhaps it is the greatest code of all, the code of continuity, the assurance that meaning can endure, carried forward not by stone alone but by the endless chain of curiosity that each generation inherits. In this sense, the pyramid is less about Pharaoh Khufu than it is about us. It is a reminder that our search for answers is itself timeless. The ancients encoded their mysteries in stone. We encode ours in books, in data, in digital archives. Someday, our descendants may wonder at our creations the way we wonder at the pyramid. They will ask of us the same question. What were they protecting? And so the echo stretches forward as well as back, rippling into futures we cannot see. The pyramid is not finished. It is still speaking, still challenging, still waiting. The stone blocks do not move, yet their meaning shifts with every generation that gazes upon them. To listen is to hear not only the voices of the past, but also the faint whisper of tomorrow. In the end, the Great Pyramid is not only an Egyptian monument. It is a human one. It belongs to all ages and all people who dare to wonder. Its code is not sealed in hieroglyphs or hidden chambers, but in the unbroken chain of curiosity itself. And as long as we continue to ask, the pyramid continues to live. The Great Pyramid stands not just as a relic of Egypt's old kingdom, but as a defiant proclamation across the ages. Long after empires crumbled and their palaces fell into dust, this monument of limestone and granite still pierces the desert sky. It is not merely architecture, it is testament, a legacy carved in stone, declaring that human ambition can reach beyond mortality, that knowledge can outlast time itself. When we think of legacy, we often imagine stories told by descendants or names etched into records. Yet here is something more enduring. A structure that does not need words to remember, does not require witnesses to testify. The pyramid is its own witness. Every block bears a memory of those who cut it, transported it, and set it into place. Their names may be lost, but their labor speaks louder than ink ever could. In this silence, their humanity survives. Consider the enormity of their achievement. Over 2 million blocks, some weigh more than 60 tons, were arranged with an accuracy so staggering that even modern engineers marvel at it. No mortar holds them together, only precision. Each stone was placed with such intent that the pyramid has withstood millennia of earthquakes, floods, and the slow decay of time. Empires rose and fell, but the pyramid endured, as if mocking the fragility of kingdoms while embodying something greater, the will to leave behind a mark that even eternity must acknowledge. But legacy is not only measured in endurance, it is also measured in meaning. The pyramid was never just a tomb. It was a story written in geometry, a code engraved in stone, a map pointing to the heavens. Its builders ensured that their culture's knowledge of mathematics, astronomy, spirituality would be preserved in the most unshakable medium possible. Papyrus burns, cities collapse, oral traditions fade. But stone, if aligned with the stars, can outlast oblivion. That was their genius. And yet, this legacy is not without contradiction. For while the pyramid proclaims permanence, the civilization that built it is gone. The pharaoh who commissioned it lies hidden, his face erased by time. The gods to whom its corridors once echoed are silent. The rituals once performed within its shadow are forgotten. In this paradox lies a lesson. Legacy is never what we intend it to be. The builders may have hoped to glorify Khufu eternally, yet today his name is secondary. What endures is not the ruler, but the creation itself. The pyramid outgrew its maker. This, too, is part of the legacy. For every human who has gazed at the pyramid has felt its silent challenge. What will you leave behind? Will it be fragile, fleeting, easily erased? Or will it stand, in some form, beyond your years, beyond your age, beyond the memory of your name? The Great Pyramid suggests that the truest legacy is not ownership, but inspiration. It belongs not to Khufu, but to all who dream of reaching higher, all who dare to stretch beyond possible. The resonance of this lesson has echoed across cultures. During the Renaissance, artists and scientists pointed to Egypt as proof that humanity had once touched greatness, urging their contemporaries to do the same. In the 19th century, explorers rode to the pyramid with awe, using it to measure the scale of their own ambitions. Even today, Astronauts orbiting Earth describe the shock of seeing its outline from space, a mark of human hands visible from the heavens. It tells them, and us, that we are capable of leaving footprints not just on sand, but on time itself. Yet legacy is also fragile. The pyramid, though enduring, is scarred. Its smooth white casing stones are gone, stripped away through centuries for other constructions. Its apex has crumbled, its passages worn by treasure hunters and explorers. What remains is magnificent, but also incomplete, and perhaps this incompleteness makes it more human. It reminds us that even the greatest legacies bear wounds. Even the most enduring monuments carry the scars of history's relentless hand. This duality, endurance and fragility, permanence and imperfection, is a true legacy of the pyramid. It teaches us that to carve something in stone is not to defeat time, but to wrestle with it, to negotiate with it. The builders did not achieve immortality in the way they intended, but they did achieve something perhaps greater. They created a question that refuses to die. The pyramid is more than a legacy of Egypt. It is a legacy of humanity itself. Every block whispers that we are creatures of wonder, capable of shaping chaos into order, aligning earth with sky, turning dust into destiny. To look at it is to feel both small and infinite, fragile yet eternal. It challenges us not simply to admire, but to continue. Perhaps this is why the pyramid still matters. It is not just a monument of what was, but a guide for what could be. It asks us, if they could achieve this with the tools of their age, what might we achieve with ours? If they could encode mystery in stone, what might we encode in the language of light, in the fabric of stars, in the very DNA of life? The Great Pyramid does not give us answers, but it hands us a torch. It tells us that legacy is not about perfection or permanence, but about daring to build, daring to dream, daring to protect what matters most. It dares us to believe that what we create, however flawed, can ripple beyond our lives and echo into eternity. And so it stands, a scarred yet immortal witness, a legacy carved in stone, reminding us that we, too, are builders, not only of monuments, but of meaning. For centuries, scholars, explorers, and dreamers have sought to crack the hidden language of the Great Pyramid. Every angle, every shaft, every proportion has been examined as if it were a cipher waiting its key. Yet what if we have been looking at it the wrong way? What if the mystery was never meant to be solved, but to endure? What if the very purpose of the codes was to keep us asking, generation after generation, what truth lies buried within? There is a seductive idea in human history that every riddle has an answer, every lock a key, every code a solution. But what if the ancients knew something different, that the power of a mystery lies not in its resolution, but in its persistence? The Great Pyramid, standing as it has for nearly 5 millennia, may be less a container of secrets than a machine for wonder. Its role may not be to reveal, but to provoke, to keep our minds restless, to force us to dream bigger than our present understanding. Imagine if Khufu's architect designed it this way on purpose. They may have known that their civilization, like all others, would eventually fade, but they also knew that the questions ignited by the pyramid would outlast the fall of kingdoms. Each generation would measure itself against its silence. Each culture would project onto its stones its own fears, its own hopes, its own faith. In this way, the pyramid would remain alive, not as a tomb, but as a dialogue between past and future. The evidence supports this interpretation. For all the centuries of exploration, no single theory has triumphed. Was it a tomb, a star map, a cosmic time capsule, a giant energy device? None of these explanations fully satisfy, and each leaves space for another to emerge. This is not failure, it is design. The pyramid is too perfect in its ambiguity, too deliberate in its refusal to give itself away. It is like a riddle crafted to outlive its maker, a code not meant to be cracked but to be carried. Think of the power this gives it. A solved riddle is dead, its mystery spent, but an unsolved one lives forever. By resisting solution, the pyramid becomes immortal in a way no dynasty ever could. It forces us to return again and again, armed with new tools, new sciences, new philosophies. And each time, it defeats us, but in that defeat, it teaches us. It keeps us searching. And in searching, we grow. This reframes a question entirely. Instead of asking, what were they protecting? Perhaps we should ask, what were they provoking? Were they provoking wonder? Or humility before the cosmos? Were they provoking us to see ourselves as part of a longer story, a continuum of seekers bound together by the same hunger to understand? If so, then the pyramid has succeeded more brilliantly than any tomb or treasure ever could. It also asks us to reflect on our own age. We are a civilization obsessed with solutions. We map genomes, decode particles, simulate galaxies. We race to close mysteries as if they were open wounds. Yet what happens when we encounter something that refuses to be closed? The pyramid reminds us that not everything is meant to be solved. Some mysteries exist to remain mysteries, to remind us of the limits of certainty and of the beauty that lies beyond it. And here lies the haunting possibility. Maybe the codes were never about knowledge at all, but about transformation. Maybe the builders knew that by leaving us with an eternal riddle, they would awaken something greater than answers. They would awaken wonder. And wonder is the seed of all human progress. Every invention, every work of art, every leap into the unknown begins with a question that resists easy answers. In this sense, the pyramid becomes less a monument of stone than a monument of intention. It is not protecting treasures or secrets, but something far more valuable, the endless flame of curiosity. It is guarding the question itself, and by doing so, it ensures that we never stop asking, never stop reaching, never stop building our own monuments to mystery. But there's a deeper twist still. What if, in the end, the pyramid's ultimate code is not written in numbers, not aligned with stars, not hidden in chambers, but written in us? Every time we look upon it and feel, or every time we wrestle with its enigma, every time we imagine what might lie behind its silence, we become a continuation of its purpose. We are the living code. The mystery does not end in Giza. It carries on in our minds, in our dreams, in our stories. And perhaps this is why the pyramid has survived when so much else has perished. Because it does not merely stand as stone. It stands as story. It stands as question. And questions, unlike empires, do not die. They echo. They grow. They become the heartbeat of civilizations yet to come. So the final reflection is this. What if the pyramid was not meant to tell us what to believe, but to remind us how to wonder? What if its silence is the most eloquent message ever delivered, a message that says, you will never know everything, and that is the beauty of being human. And so the riddle remains, alive and unbroken. The codes endure not as answers, but as invitations. They call to us, just as they are called to every generation before us, to imagine, to search, to never be satisfied with certainty. The Great Pyramid is not only a monument to the past, it is a challenge to the future. And its greatest secret may be that the code was never meant to be solved at all, only to be lived. Night falls on the Giza Plateau. The desert cools, the tourists vanish, and the horizon becomes a canvas of stars. In this stillness, the Great Pyramid reclaims its truest form, not a backdrop for photographs, not a puzzle for tourists, but a sentinel keeping its silent watch as it has for nearly 5,000 years. The noise of the modern world recedes, and once again it belongs only to the wind, the sand, and the heavens. From a distance, the pyramid seems almost alive, its edges glowing under moonlight, its shadows stretching endlessly into the dunes. It does not speak, yet it tells a story. It does not move, yet it carries us across centuries. Beneath its massive weight lies more than stone. It carries the weight of every dreamer who has stood before it, asking questions, feeling or wondering what it all means. This is a paradox. The pyramid is both eternal and fleeting. Eternal in its stone, fleeting in the lives that pass by it. Pharaohs, conquerors, explorers, scholars, all stood in its presence, and all have vanished, leaving only faint echoes. Yet the pyramid remains, unmoved, watching us now, as we struggle with the same questions its builders once faced. Who are we? What do we leave behind? What mysteries are worth protecting? Perhaps this is its final lesson. Not to give us answers, but to remind us of the preciousness of the questions. In an age where we seek to measure and explain everything, the pyramid whispers a value of wonder, of mystery, of silence. It dares us to resist the urge to solve, and instead to listen, to the universe, to the past, to the echo of our own place in time. As the stars wheel overhead, Orion's belt drifts into alignment once more, just as it did when the pyramid was new. Thousands of years have passed, yet the same sky looks down upon the same monument. And in that continuity lies a profound truth. While we are temporary, the questions we ask can outlast us. Wonder itself is immortal. The Great Pyramid will stand long after our cities are gone, long after our technology has turned to dust. Someday, other beings, human or otherwise, may look upon it and feel the same unanswerable pull. They too will ask, what were they protecting? And in that moment, the pyramid will have done its work once more. For now, it waits in silence, watching, enduring, guarding the riddle it was built to carry. And as we leave its shadow, we are left with a haunting realization. The pyramid does not need us to solve it. It only needs us to remember that mystery itself is sacred. The desert grows darker, the stars grow brighter, and the pyramid stands, eternal, holding its silence and daring us to dream.